First, this morning we unsealed an indictment in the Southern District of New York of Konstantin Kalashnikov and Elena Afanasieva, two Russian-based employees of RT, a Russian state-controlled media outlet. They are charged with conspiring to commit money laundering and to violate the Foreign Agents Registration Act. That law, enacted nearly a century ago, was enacted to ensure that the American people were informed when a foreign power engages in political activities or seeks to influence public discourse. The American people are entitled to know when a foreign power is attempting to exploit our country's free exchange of ideas in order to send around its own propaganda.
I am shocked by this news. This news is mind-blowing. This news is living up to the title breaking. I did not see this coming. Did any of you see this coming? And of course, what I'm talking about that I'm so shocked by is that Merrick Garland is actually doing his job for once.
Trump is the new Adolf.
Welcome to the channel. I'm your host, MJ. Make sure you hit that upvote. Keep us in the good algorithm. If you watch this episode, you like it, make sure you subscribe. I hope you liked my little acting at the first there. That's called misdirection. You see what I'm doing? Best actor in the state of Utah in like the year 20,000. Wow, that was a long time ago. Let's just start the show. Russians funneled $10 million straight from Vladimir Putin. $10 million through this Tenet Media, Tennessee domestic for-profit corporation. $10 million to give to right-wing influencers. Gee, I wonder who they could be. Let's meet the assets. Or should I say talent? I'm gonna need, if we're gonna call these people talented, I'm gonna need Don Jr. level quotations. So go ahead and throw him up while I say, let's meet the talent. Second guy over. I recognize that beanie anywhere. Beanie Baby himself. Tim Pool, the chill skater guy who lives on a compound. He's been directly taking money from Vladimir Putin. And you might be asking yourself, how did he get away with it? Yeah. Where's he been hiding the rubles? Well, that's the genius of old Timmy Pool here. He's been hiding the rubles in the one place where nobody has access to, except for him. Rubles under the beanie. Hey, that's a good name. That should be the name of his biography. You could have it, Tim Pool. I'll sell it to you for $10 million. Let's get back on track. Tim Pool wrote a giant wall of text saying he didn't know why. My statement regarding allegations and leaked DOJ indictment. You even put a period there. It should be a colon, right? Or at least a semicolon. But I digress. Should these allegations prove true, I, as well as the other personalities and commenters and anyone who's tuning out, I'm not going to read this whole thing. So you're like, oh my God, I'm going to get out of here. He's going to read a whole wall of text. I'm just reading to this part. As well as the other personalities and commentators were deceived, and we are all victims. There's that classic Republican victim complex that we've all come to love. And I understand what he's saying here, because sometimes I've been a victim, right? Of just massive amounts of money being thrown at my face. Sometimes in the super chat down here, people will send me $100,000. $50,000. Yeah, the Chud Report's fan base are the greatest fans there are. I regularly make millions of dollars for each of these episodes because of you guys. And the only gift I've ever returned is this bull. Nobody likes these, Gary. They didn't even like him in the early 2000s when they were sitting around. Stop sending me edible arrangements, Gary. It's like edible panties. It's good in theory, but in practice, you're just going to get a bellyache. And if you think I'm getting off the subject, you're saying to yourself, what even is the subject now? Why is he talking about edible panties? Well, it's all part of a technique. It's all part of a technique that me and Donald Trump use.
I do the weave. You know what the weave is? I'll talk about like 9 different things, and they all come back brilliantly together.
That's what I was doing.
And it's like, and friends of mine that are like English professors, they say, it's the most brilliant thing I've ever seen. But the fake news, you know what they say? He rambled.
Yeah, I'm not
It's
rambling either.
rambling. When you have, what you do is you get off a subject to mention another little tidbit, then you get back onto the subject, and you go through this, and you do it for 2 hours, and you don't even mispronounce one word.
You don't even pronounce one word. He says he's hanging out with English professors. Who's this for? Are you guys still really into this? I hang out with English professors as I travel the country, and they admire my weave. They admire my big brain.
Donald Trump's very, very large brain.
Back to Timmy Pool. Little capri wearing Timmy Pool. All he ever wanted. All little Timmy ever wanted was to be a real boy. And I have to say, knowing that he was taking Russia money, it makes this segment make so much more sense. So much more sense.
But I don't know that it matters anymore. This is psychotic. Ukraine is the enemy of this country. Ukraine is our enemy, being funded by the Democrats. I will stress this again. One of the greatest enemies of our nation right now is Ukraine. They are expanding this war. Now, don't get me wrong. I know you've got criminal elements of the U.S. government pushing them and guiding them and telling them what to do. Ukraine is now accused, a German warrant issued for blowing up the Nord Stream pipeline, triggering this conflict. Ukraine is the greatest threat to this nation and to the world. We should rescind all funding and financing, pull out all military support, and we should apologize to Russia.
And we should apologize to Russia. Ukraine is the greatest threat to the nation. No. Scratch that, Timmy Pool. You want to earn that $100,000? You want to earn that $100,000 from Putin? Ukraine is the greatest threat to the world, he says. Now, that's a $100,000 statement. And then in his tweet, he says, when I was handed these very specific talking points, this is from it. This is what they were given very specific things to talk about. When I was handed these from Tenet Media, along with a check of $100,000 each episode, it's for a single episode of when I did this. I had no idea. It was for that's not a Tim Pool voice. What's a Tim Pool voice? I had no idea. I'm terrible impressions. If you subscribe to this channel for impressions, you are in for a rude awakening.
What's your opinion on the solution to the Ukraine war?
Cut off the money.
He's on
It's
his
the only
phone.
way you get them to the table. Right? As long as, we're literally creating the oligarch class of billionaire in Ukraine with whatever's being siphoned off, whether it's Zelensky,
Literally
whether it's this,
creating
while
it.
they send young men to die as cannon fodder on the front lines because they couldn't care less. It's disgusting
Sounds
what's
like
going
he
on
didn't
there.
want to save the
That it's
F word.
allowed to happen, that we shut down anything. It's so obvious. Nothing's ever going to change there if the money keeps flowing. My father would have been like, hey, you got like one more month of this, and if you're not at the table, it's done.
Yeah.
Guess what?
Hey,
Zelensky
it's
wouldn't
a
have a
Tim
chance if
Pooletta.
we shut it down.
What do you
so
call
he'd come
Tim
to the
Pool?
table,
That's a lady.
and they'd come up with
Look,
something.
he's still
Absolutely.
on his phone. If you got Meghan McCain and Don Jr. to have a show together, you name that show My Father, and all they do is sit there and say, my father, back and forth. I bet the Chud would watch it. Don Jr. says that literally creating the oligarch class. This is the party of Peter, I groomed J.D. Vance Teal. This is the party of Elon. I'll unabashedly buy my way into the White House, Musk. They're creating an oligarch class. Who is, once again, this is $100,000 because he did it again. He's on his phone reading the script, which I'll get to in a minute. But who is buying this? And back to him looking at his phone. You know what I mean? You're getting paid $100,000 here, Pool. And whoever the Poulette is, I imagine she's this Lauren Southern, a Tim Poulette. She was also getting $100,000. Get off script, man. Look at this. Memorize the script. $100,000. You're not a day player. I'm not saying you have to be a method actor. Back to Tim Pool's apology tweet. I had no idea Russia was paying me $100,000 to read a script from my phone.
We reached out to RT for comment, and the company responded in part with the following. Ha, 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 ha.
I'm sure that was much funnier in the original Russian, but for us, it's not funny. This is deadly serious, and we are going to treat it accordingly.
The only joke here is that Merrick Garland's actually doing his job. Someone must have wandered in the bathroom and accidentally muttered, Merrick, 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 into the mirror, and he appeared behind them. This Federalist darling finally appeared. Where you been, Merrick? Where you been for the past 4 years? It's good to know you're well. It's good to know you're still alive. It's nice of you to check in from time to time. And look at that one on the bottom, on the far right. Benny Small Johnson was also getting $100,000 per episode. And the worst part about Benny Small Johnson is I had no idea he even existed until Elon took over Twitter. Had no idea this guy existed. I made an episode about it. I think it's been like a year now. Whenever Elon took over. Because he would put him in my timeline 20 times a day. So I had to look up who he was. Benny Small Johnson plagiarized over 100 articles. Oh, but that's not the best part, all right? That's not even the joke. Benny Johnson plagiarized over 100 articles to write for BuzzFeed. Russia, Vladimir Putin was paying $100,000 an episode to a guy who couldn't even write out his own lists without copying someone else's lists. Maybe there's some kids in here, although I don't think BuzzFeed is that old, right? We all remember what BuzzFeed was. You know, utterly... we don't say that word anymore. What word? Utterly, medically, special, touched in the head. I think those are all politically correct, right? I think we're still good there. You know how special you have to be to not be able to come up with the Taco Bell menu item that changed you on a spiritual level. To have to plagiarize someone to write literal tripe like that. Benny was not out here plagiarizing Shakespeare. And it is too bad that Benny Johnson's career at BuzzFeed, they figured him out before he could reach the assignment to write this article, because maybe he could have learned something by copying all those people. 11 myths Putin is spreading about the crisis in Ukraine. BuzzFeed, they're all lists. That's what we call foreshadowing in the business. You probably wouldn't know that, Benny Johnson. Benny Small Johnson. Benny is disturbed by the leaked DOJ indictment. He called it leaked? Garland had a full press conference. We just watched it where he told the world about all this happening. And apparently world famous buzz writer journalist couldn't make a list. I guess that means it's leaked. Are you guys starting to understand why he had to plagiarize lists? Yeah. And you only need to get a couple sentences in before he dusts it off. Just like old Timmy Pool. The Republican victim complex. You see, Betty is also a victim. These guys are victims. We are not. This channel does not victim shame. These guys are victims of having to read a script for $100,000 each time. $10 million poured in to them. They're victims. Every single time Putin's check cleared, we got another Civil War tweet from Timmy here. But you have to understand, he's a victim. And like any victim of a scam, I don't know what kind of scam this is. Like any victim of a scam, they're all keeping the $10 million they got. No, they're not giving it back. They're not giving that money to charity. They're keeping it. Who knows? Timmy Pool might need to buy another skate park in case he gets bullied by a bunch of kids. So he has to buy it out from underneath them. And if you don't know that story, you should check that one out. Put that on our Oprah reading list. The Chud Report reading list. For 10 years, these kids had a skate park. They didn't want Tim Pool around, for obvious reasons, right? So what'd he do? Left the kids alone, went and did something else, went and found some new friends. No, of course not. Tim Pool bought the skate park from underneath the kids, fenced it off, made it his property, and kicked them off their skate park that they've been going to for 10 years. So that's Tim Pool. That's the victim, Tim Pool. But the biggest pusher of Tenet Media. Garland didn't mention him waking up from his sleepy nap. The biggest pusher of this Russian propaganda is not even American. Is that shocking to you? Close up the border. He's not even American. He's African. Elon Musk has become a monster. Elon Musk has become the monster that late-stage capitalism has created. A perfect storm of a country replacing their organized religions with their organized political parties. Replacing their gods with the cults of personality. A monster who took advantage of a government that has been ravaged, bones picked bare by Reaganism for the past 40 years. Elon Musk is the human equivalent of a nuclear meltdown. And traces of his effects, the half-life of being Musk, will be felt for generations. As anyone who's been on Twitter in the last year, of course he pushed Russian propaganda. It's all he does, right? Saudi Arabia owns like 80% of this with him. What do you think Twitter is now? It's not Twitter, it's X. It's Twitter. A couple months ago, SimilarWeb started filtering out its bot traffic. And every month since then, Twitter has dropped. I'm not saying it's probably losing users also. But it's dropped 500 to 600 million clicks users every single day. Losing over 1.5 billion of its traffic. Because they got rid of bots. Who do you think you're talking to on Twitter? Twitter is nothing anymore. Twitter is the dead internet theory come to life, right? Twitter is made up of you, Elon Musk, bots, and neo-Nazis. And that's pretty much it. And even the bots are neo-Nazis. So I don't even follow Elon. I don't even follow this chud on Twitter. I get a notification for every time he tweets. I get a notification for every time he farts. It's nothing but notifications from Elon. Twitter is nothing but a propaganda delivery service. So, of course, look at this. Look how many times. This is just a sample. If you type in how many times he's elevated their content, how many times he's pushed it. Now with no ramifications to old Capri Pants here. Nothing's going to happen to him because he was a victim who got $10 million. With no ramifications. All the money in his pocket still. Tim Pool does what Tim Pool does. You could call it trolling, but at this point, it's just mocking America and Americans. Upon reflection, I now understand that Ukraine is our greatest ally. As the breadbasket of Europe and peace-loving, we cannot allow the fascist Russians to continue their crimes against humanity. We must redouble our effort and provide an additional $200 billion at once. Dripping with sarcasm. Because, as I said, he's not just mocking. You may think, the chuds, right? They're like, oh yeah, take that, liberals, take that. He's getting you. And I know that you honestly believe that, but he's not just mocking Democrats, liberals, the left. He's mocking this country. And Elon, who's bleeding advertisers, wants to sue advertisers, force them to advertise on his platform. That's how delusional. Like I said, the monster of late stage capitalism. If I coined that, did I coin that? That should be the book I write about it, right? His next move was elevating, retweeting, platforming Tucker Carlson so they could make an episode on the Holocaust denialism. He brought on a Nazi sympathizer. Yes, that Tucker Carlson. And Elon retweeted it saying, watch this. Am I weaving again? Feels like I'm weaving again. Right? My college professor friends say I'm weaving again. So let's just look at some of this. Was from, Garland's report on it, the FBI's report on it. On some of the issues they were giving over to these influencers to plant in the American right conscience. Encroaching universal poverty, record inflation, halting of economic growth, unaffordable prices for food and essential goods, right at the top. Risk of job loss for white Americans. I mean, this is just a typical night at Fox News. I'm not even sure Elon had to pay $10 million. It just kind of happens. Privileges for people of color, perverts, and the disabled. Perverts like Trump? I'm not sure he likes that one. Constant lies of the U.S. political party administration about the real situation in the country. Blah, blah, blah. All of these things. So I just want you to know. Because these are just the ones they've caught, right? When it comes out of nowhere, like Timmy Pool going off on Ukraine like that, or you notice the trend in their talking points like this, it's not by accident. It's not by coincidence. And someone is definitely getting paid. And absolutely no one should be surprised by the response of, people like this mustache right here.
I want to move to another topic, which is that DOJ seems to be back to Russia, because they announced indictments against Russians for alleged election interference.
Weird.
So the media's favorite talking point, they think, is back. Watch this.
Watch this. Russia. Chuds eat it up. They love to say it. They like to show you just how effective propaganda is on their brains. 2017 or whenever it all happened, one of the main reasons I ditched my personal Facebook is this kid I went to school with, right? Like I said earlier, I don't know how the word to describe him anymore. Touched, special. We went to school inside the building. He was one of the kids who had to go to school in the trailer outside. Maybe that's the politically right way to say it. He was a trailer kid. Facebook, the hellscape it is, the hellscape it was when I was on there, forces all these people that you never wanted to talk to again in your life. It used to force them all on there. I'm not on Facebook anymore. But this kid, let's call him Josh, okay? He made a post about how the Mueller report proved Trump was innocent and that all the Democrats should be jailed because of it. And let me add that this genius Josh, I should have called him that in high school. Even though that's a totally made up name. That's not his real name. Although I don't think you can dox someone if you don't say their last name. Anyway, genius Josh. If you didn't already think he was the bad guy in this story, this will help put it over the top. He's a dog breeder. But you have to understand he was very limited in his talents. There wasn't much he could do beyond guiding a dog penis into another dog's vagina. That's where he capped out. So when I read this, I don't know why I engaged with it. I guess I was feeling particular that day, particularly particular. But I asked Genius Josh what he thought of Volume 1 of the Mueller report. This is me being mean, right? It's me being mean to this guy. He didn't read the Mueller report. But Volume 1 traced and went through all the instances of interference. Volume 1 was all about the attack. It wasn't really about Trump's obstruction of justice. So Genius Josh, after he washed off his hands, maybe he didn't wash off his hands, Genius Josh writes back, I didn't read that. It was all fake. And God knows why I had to write back, but I said, I thought you said it exonerated him. How could it be fake? Genius Josh. What? That's all he wrote was what? So I decided to stop, right? I don't know why I started in the first place. But then his wife joined in. Man, I do not miss Facebook. Do you guys remember these stupid arguments on Facebook. So I made a joke about how he breeds dogs. And I asked what kind of she was. Because it's not my best joke, but a female dog, right, is called a. And this caused a spark in the meth town of Wellington, Utah. It's famous for meth. Their town bird is meth. The entire town joined this Facebook chat and agreed on a jihad on me. So, gonna have to find a new place to get some meth. But here I am, weaving again. That's what the college professors tell me. And I'm here to tell you, I don't know if it's like this in other states, but in the state of Utah, they do not teach you critical thinking until you get to college. And they especially don't teach critical thinking to the kids who have to go out in the trailer to learn. So even though Garland woke up, even though this happened, I mean, this is going to play out exactly how it always plays out. The exploiters doing what they do. And the exploited doing what they do. And believing every ounce, every drop of propaganda that they're fed. Because somewhere in that Chud heart beats a craving for authoritarianism. The Chud Report. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being here. Make sure you subscribe. You've been here a while. You want to be a member? You want to be a member of this? $100,000. Hit that membership. It's $2.99. You get to watch the old Chad videos. I release a new one, about one every week for you guys to watch. I don't know if that's a selling point. But overall, you get to help the channel. You get to support me. I see your comments first. During lives, your comments are highlighted, so it's easier for me to respond to you. And yeah, that's it. That's all I got for you today. So drop me one of those $100,000 super comments. Unless you're a Russian media company. Still do it anyway. The Chud Report.
You know what the wave is? I'll talk about like 9 different things and they all come back brilliantly together. And it's like, and friends of mine that are like English professors, they say, it's the most brilliant thing I've ever seen. But the fake news, you know what they say? He rambled. That's not rambling. When you have, what you do is you get off a subject to mention another little tidbit, then you get back onto the subject, and you go through this and you do it for 2 hours, and you don't even mispronounce one word.